There's a real push to authenticity. That's what people are going to be loyal to. I've always been a marketer, 25 years in marketing, but I started my career in tech at IBM. We realized as a technology company the power of human energy. And then this Cadillac Fairview opportunity I came to learn about, which is like a natural fit, right? From video game to real estate or shopping malls. But the conversation we were having, Cadillac Fairview at the time, was them wanting to build more of an experience-led business. It's way more than a transactional shopping experience. And that's why it made sense for me from an experience Xbox role to Cadillac Fairview, because here we're building spaces that people live, work, and play in. They're again powered by human energy. We look at loyalty. We want to make the experience something that you're loyal to. We want the visit to be the reward. The path to loyalty, I feel, is repeatedly solving customers' needs through all this technology shift. What a crazy time to have a career the last 2 decades. That it still just comes back to humanity. In a world that feels like it's maybe never been more technologically connected, if we get like connection and authenticity as a North Star in this loyalty conversation, then if it is stuck, it gets unstuck by that. Moments can be created. They don't just happen. Sometimes we can over-engineer these things. You don't really get to pick which moments are those defining.
This show is brought to you by Comark, the global loyalty partner trusted by enterprise brands in over 50 countries. With more than 30 years of experience and 290 million loyalty members on board, Comark knows what it takes to build real connections that last. Their AI-powered tools turn data into action and customers into superfans. From fraud-proof platforms to personalized journeys, Comark helps you boost engagement, grow revenue, and make loyalty your competitive edge. Want to see how they do it? Head over to comark.com and discover loyalty that actually works. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, a show for loyalty marketing professionals. I'm Paula Thomas, the founder and CEO of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, where we feature insightful conversations with loyalty professionals from the world's leading brands. Today's episode is part of the Wiser Loyalty series and is hosted by Aaron Dauphinee, Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer of the Wise Marketeer Group. The Wise Marketeer Group is a media, education and advisory services company, providing resources for loyalty marketeers through the Wise Marketeer digital publication and the Loyalty Academy program that offers the Certified Loyalty Marketing Professional or CLMP designation. I hope you enjoyed this episode brought to you by Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV in partnership with the Wise Marketeer Group.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wiser Loyalty podcast series. This series continues to be brought to you through partnership between Let's Talk Loyalty and the Wiser Marketer. Throughout 2024, the Wise Marketer Group CEO Bill Hanifin and myself, Aaron Dauphinee, I'm the CMO here at WMG. We shared our insights on loyalty constructs and topics that were inspired by one of the core courses in our Loyalty Academy Certified Loyalty Marketing Professional Curriculum, or CLMP for short. In 2025, we are shifting from this academic focus to seek out insights from practitioners of the trade, such as our own CLMPs, those who are leading from the C-suite. Twice a month, we will bring you an interview with a C-level executive, a loyalty leader, or a CLMP who has transformed strategy into practical application, and really they're generating strong business results from customer loyalty. I've been looking forward to reconnecting with our guest today after meeting Craig Flannagan, the VP of Marketing for Cadillac Fairview, as part of our webinar series that we do in partnership with CRMC. So welcome, Craig. It's great to be speaking with you once again.
It's good to be back.
Great, wonderful. To continue on, just before we dive into the questions, my excitement is both in having the expert perspective from Craig in this conversation, but also because of the sector in which he's enabling our loyalty discipline. So in that webinar where we first met, we explored a topic of decoding Gen Z and the future of in-mall shopping experiences. This was done in part with two other guests, actually, one from Mall of America and another from Conic. But today we're hoping to rekindle some of that conversation with Craig and go deeper on a Cadillac Fairview lens. So we will also focus on an idea of loyalty being infused into the retail spaces. That's a term that I've used, and Craig's kind of keyed in on as from our other conversations. The retail spaces that CF owns, such as malls, the concourses within larger commercial buildings, and the like, because they're not all the same. So, but first, for those of you who may not be familiar with Craig, let me share a bit about his background. I mentioned that Craig is the Vice President of Marketing for Cadillac Fairview, which is the prominent North American-focused commercial real estate agent that here in Canada operates some of Canada's highest performing shopping centers, actually. He's a seasoned marketing leader with over 25 years of experience driving success at global brands, such as a few that you might know, IBM, Microsoft. And he spent the last decade creating similar success for Cadillac Fairview. Some career highlights that Craig shared with me include just 1, 2, and 3. The first was that he's built a robust digital advertising business that includes Canada's largest digital out-of-home screen. He's also created hundreds of immersive activations and experiences, including our country's tallest Christmas tree. And then last but not least, he's cultivating the massive CF Insider digital community, which engages shoppers each year at Cadillac Fairview Properties. So Craig, a couple things. Just let me check to make sure that I haven't missed anything. What would you add for our listeners? And to add actually, perhaps if you might also talk a bit about transitioning from large tech giants into the retail sector, because that's interesting. Was the transition easy, and what was applicable from going from kind of those B2B kind of clients to B2C, or the mix in between, if you will. I'll stop there.
Yeah.
Let you go.
I'll parse that out. Your first question, I think professionally, that's pretty good summary.
Great.
Personally, I'm a proud husband and dad, and dad to 2 Gen Alphas. And so, based on our last conversation, oddly, what I like, I'm a big researcher, but I love seeing the world through their eyes as well, and just seeing, in some cases, how different, and in some cases, how similar. You start to see what the real human truths are when you can see the world through their eyes as much as I can versus my own.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
we talked a little bit, and you brought in some examples from your kids' point of view in the conversation. So hopefully we'll touch on those again today. But go on, continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second question, it's a fun one. I don't get to talk about this much. Because IBM, Microsoft, and Cadillac Fairview might not stitch together for everybody, but they do for me. I've always been a marketer, so 25 years in marketing, but I started my career in tech marketing at IBM. And most of the work that I was able to do at IBM, and the work that I think affected me most, was building their user group community.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's such a tech-driven company, obviously, like that's a real obvious statement. But I was able to spend my time bringing people together physically from around the world. We had groups in, I can't even tell you how many countries, but we had 400 user groups with hundreds of thousands of members across the world. And they would come together to talk about their plans. They'd come together to talk about their tough problems. They would commiserate. They would figure out how to sell stuff in. Often it was based around like a technical presentation. There was some draw, but really at the end of the day, it was a physical human connection that we were building. And we realized as a technology company, the power of human energy. And for me, it's one of the reasons, like I still look back so fondly on that time. Like IBM's a really smart company in realizing their technology, but at the end of the day, there's still people using the technology. I went on from IBM to Microsoft and did a very similar thing. So I started, a big focus on Microsoft's user group community in the Canadian space. So I joined Microsoft Canada. I'd gone from a more global IBM role to a Canadian Microsoft role, did the same thing there. But the fun part about Microsoft is they had some consumer brands, and one of those was Xbox. And as a marketer, that's like gravity. You just kind of get pulled.
Amazing. Oh, I love it.
You just kind of get pulled when that's in your orbit. You're like, what about that thing over there? So I was really lucky and blessed enough to join the Xbox team at Microsoft. And that thread continued, though, which I think is really interesting. Like, yes, that was the first kind of change in direction in my career, going from B2B mostly to a B2C brand. Like it's
Right.
very business to consumer, Xbox. But the thread that continued for me was Xbox is a video game system for sure, or was at that point. I'm not sure what they would call it now. But the real special part of Xbox was Xbox Live. It was this service that brought people together. It wasn't about this solo game experience. It was, which is what gaming consoles used to be. Yeah, they were social, but they were social on the couch.
Yep.
Maybe you'd have a buddy come over. Xbox Live really brings this thing to the world. And so again, I found myself at the nexus of tech and community. And really the special thing there was the human energy. When we launched Xbox 360, one of the taglines we had was the ultimate social magnet, powered by human energy. So like already, I would say in the first 10 years of my career, I was starting to see, well, wait a minute, there's a repeatable thing around human energy, which then, I did over 10 years, I think I did 11 years at Xbox. And then this Cadillac Fairview opportunity, I came to learn about, which is like a natural fit, right? From video games to real estate or shopping malls. But
so natural.
The conversation we were having, that I was having with Cadillac Fairview at the time, was them wanting to build more of an experience-led business and to realize that it's way more than a transactional shopping experience. And all the credit to them. I mean, like, I didn't have to come in here and tell them that. They were really, really focused on that. And that's why it made sense for me from an experience Xbox role to Cadillac Fairview, because here we're building spaces that people live, work, and play in. They're again powered by human energy. Like now I'm seeing the thread, come over 25 years, that it's way more than just retail transactions, commerce transactions. We're a place to meet, have a drink. Last time when we were talking about, the path to loyalty, I feel, is repeatedly solving customers' needs.
That's right.
When we look at the needs that we solve, yeah, part of it's like an achievement based. I need to get something, but part of it's personal. I need to kill time or relax. Part of it's social. I need a place to hang out. My parents are in town and I want to go eat, or we want to walk around, or exploratory or inspirational. Like there's so many needs that we solve that are beyond the transactional needs, but also come from this place of human energy. Like that's why I like lately I've really liked looking back on the last 2 decades, because it's a pretty defined thread around just through all this technology shift. What a crazy time to have a career the last 2 decades, that it still just comes back to humanity. Like it still comes back to, we are at the end of the day humans with needs.
And I think it's even more apropos in this state of, where's artificial intelligence going to take us, and what's the human element that you talk about that interfuses with AI. And, we've said at the Wise Marketer Group, it's a takeoff of someone else, so it's not our original thought, but we are sharing it out there, which is, AI is not going to replace humans. It's humans using AI that are going to replace humans, right? So it's using the technology and having that thread. But I also love in this conversation, as well as the one before, where you talk about this idea of spaces and the way in which spaces are changing, whether they're digital spaces or actual physical spaces, and that human energy you're talking about is apparent in both of those, no matter what. So that like you say, there is that thread, and so it is a very, very fascinating time for us to be alive and to be marketers at this point in time.
Yeah.
Hey, before we hop into more specifically around your thoughts around loyalty and CF's lens, one of the things that we always like to do here at the Let's Talk Loyalty, and particularly for the Wiser Loyalty podcast, is to ask our actual guests a little bit about what they're reading. What goes deeper into your mindset that's outside. You talked a little bit about your family, so that was good to get some human element to you. But
Yeah.
another way of doing that. So our team always asks our guests about, what book you're currently reading, and I always like to add in like why, or what's the most fruitful takeaway that comes from that particular book. So maybe if you could dive in there before we hop into too many harder questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I'll be honest. There's 2 I'm reading. There's one I'll talk about.
Sure.
The one I am rereading Moments of Truth for probably the 3rd time. So I'm a big fan of Switch and Chip and Dan Heath. Like I think they figured something out. So yeah, to me, it's a reread, probably the third time. And the overarching insight that I can take from that is that moments can be created. They don't just happen.
Right.
They
Okay.
can be created. And I wouldn't go as far as to say we have found that it's like overly formulaic, like you just do this and it works every time.
Right.
Um, but the book definitely puts you on a path to get you to fun places faster from a moment perspective, like talking about surprise and delight,
Hmm.
or talking about how moments seem to be more meaningful when people discover things for themselves versus if they're told, which I think is a parenting statement as much as a business statement.
Yeah, I think that's fair too.
It's
It's
just
a
like
life statement, right?
yes, I can tell, or you can figure it out on your own. The second is way more impactful.
Yeah.
But just that idea of the fact that moments can be manufactured, which I even hate the way I said that there's like that there's a method to moments. And I think the other thing I take away from the book when I read it and reread it is, and they're not all like the whiz bang fireworks moments. Like
Mhm.
one of my favorite movies is Inside Out. I
Okay.
love that
Yeah.
movie.
Familiar with it.
And one of the things that I take away from that movie is you don't really get to pick which moments are those defining moments. And I'm sure when you look back as well, like some of the things are real small. It's
Yes.
it's it's not the trip. It was the fact that you got candy at the airport. And like, again, I work it back to like the job I'm in, but also the family life we've got. It's like sometimes we can over engineer these things.
Well, I think if I take on and add to what you're suggesting is, it is a bit harsh. Moments can be manufactured, but I like you're just being literal, I think, as opposed to, trying to emphasize that they're prescriptive to too much degree. But the
Yeah,
reality,
they still need to be authentic moments
yeah,
at the end of the day, right? Like I think yeah,
That
yeah,
that
the
that's what I was going to
authenticity of
go.
them still needs
It's
to be
if you're
high.
an individual who is seeking out moments and have a philosophy of moments matter, right? I'll speak for myself personally. One of the frustrations from my family, typically, if they were when I was younger, would ever give me some extra spending cash, is hey, go buy a couch, and I would be like, no, I'm going to take my friends for dinner because it was the moment
Mhm.
that was more meaningful and impactful. And if I look back on those things later on, gosh forbid, when the white light starts to show, then my theory is that I'll remember those moments with people and experiences as opposed to the things that I've had, and that's just a psychology. And so when you take that into your work world, like we are with as loyalty operators and as marketers, you start to want to create those experiences for others, just
Yeah.
like you yourself are creating for the environment that you live in and for the experience that you have in this lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I think I like the way you said that. It's like creating the conditions for moments,
yes.
right? What do we need to do to create the conditions for moments? And yeah, just as I think about that book, I find it's a great balance of psychology and business strategy. It's just like very straightforward. So it's worth a reread, and that's what I'm doing.
I love it. And I mean, oftentimes when we find ourselves rereading something, we're dissecting it like a good mystery, right? Like you see things the second and third or even fourth or fifth
Yeah.
time that you didn't the first because you're at a different state of evolution and you've had the time to incubate the ideas in your subconscious and then they pop up because of the experiences you might have had in the periods between when you first read it to when you second or third read it. So I think that's
Yeah.
sure.
No, you're right. It's the shower moments. It's
Yeah,
not the,
exactly, exactly.
right? Yeah.
Listen, I'm Canadian, you're Canadian. A lot of people will know Cadillac Fairview. I gave an overall description, but perhaps you can just, for those who are unfamiliar with the business and the business model, maybe you can describe a little bit more about the business and the types of customers that you're targeting. I think that's more really what I'd like to get to and who you're trying to influence and with the loyalty mechanics that you have. And is it retailers, is it mall shoppers? What's that look like in terms of your writ at CF in marketing?
Yeah, so I think the kind of meat and potatoes first. We're the largest owner, operator, investor, developer of office, retail, multifamily, residential, industrial, mixed use in North America. So we're a big real estate company. But but at the end of the day, we know again that we're a place, we're a space where life happens, where work happens, where play happens.
Right.
And for us, when we look at loyalty, and we kind of talked about this a bit last time, when we look at loyalty, we want to make the experience something that you're loyal to. So when we think about rewards, like we want the visit to be the reward.
Okay.
So how do we think about that from a loyalty lens? And so for us, that comes back to understanding what people need and what they want, and trying to deliver on that. And for us, it looks like great locations, great retailers, great dining and entertainment options in what we hope is an inspiring environment. And so that's really what drives us, making sure that we understand that we're more than shopping, we're more than transaction, that people have a whole bunch of different needs, and it's our job to understand those and to try to solve them more often than not in a way that's inspiring.
I like that, and it actually dovetails nicely into a question that I have later on. So I'm going to bring it forward a little bit, which is really around, like, I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that are proving successful to get people into your physical spaces. Like, I love that we've gone back and forth on that term because it is so apropos for what you have as inventory, right? And so you talk about the rewards as the reward, the spaces that and reward to some degree. What other strategies are proving successful to get people into the spaces? And then also, what's the next step of, like, they've come once, how do we get them to return and or go to other spaces in your network?
I think the first part is solving needs, and the second part is doing it repeatedly, building some trust that you've got them, I think is the overarching approach. But if I were to take another look at kind of how we try to resonate with Canadians, and I think one of the parts of the question you'd had was who's our customer.
That's right.
The reality is the great majority of Canadians, not 100%, but awfully close, would visit a Cadillac Fairview property once a year at least. So we just have the geographic spread where we're seeing lots of Canadians. The other reality is like we know that cross shop happens, so you're not going to do all of your shopping here. But we try to make this environment one that you want to come to more often than not. We know that convenience plays a big role. That's a big kind of gate. Are we conveniently located? After that, it comes down to mix. Do we have the experiences that you want, be it retail, food? And so when we look at the highest level of needs, that you can really break them down, I find anyway, into needs that are more efficiency based. Hey, I'm time starved, attention deficit, I'm in a bit of a hurry. And so for us, that might be wayfinding, making sure you can find parking quickly, making sure you can find the retailer you want to go to, making sure you can make a restaurant reservation easily, making sure that you can find your way around the property easily. Sometimes that's signage, sometimes that's directories, sometimes that's people. So that's kind of the efficiency. Then there's inspiration. You have more stores, restaurants, entertainment experiences than I will visit in a single trip. So I expect you, Cadillac Fairview, to be able to curate. I expect you to be able to pull something together and give me a day, right?
Okay.
Because lots of our centers, they would have hundreds of retailers, more than you're going to visit. I think that's a need that people look for from us. And then I think there's the social needs as well, right? So how do you, if it's inspiration and efficiency, then probably social is the next biggest thing. So, like, how do you create experiences that allow for things to happen in between the stores?
Right.
How do you lease to people and put experiences in your property that are social in nature? I think about the things that we've done with National Geographic or with the Ontario Science Centre at Sherway Gardens. Or we've got a VR experience called Horizons of Khufu at Chinook Center in Calgary. We've partnered with a Montreal company called Moment Factory on an experience called Mirror Mirror. So I think there's those social elements to it, right? That are yes, inspiring, but also built for social. And that's how I think that's the mix. That's the kind of recipe for us to drive a visit, is to make sure that you are balancing efficient, inspiring, and social, and doing a good job at, like, being salient and like consistently communicating that as well, so that when that need arises of something to do, we're in the decision set. Hey, we could go to this place and do that, or we could go to the Eaton Center and hit Italy. That could be a fun experience, right? Like
Right.
that's what we're shooting for.
I like the set of four that you put there. I'm curious most, though, I have to admit, around
Mm.
the idea of curation. Obviously, that falls into my line of work with the media and
Hmm.
education of how we curate content. But you're talking about curating experiences, which ties to the social. So the three and four, the first two
Yeah.
are important as well too. But of the mix, and you said like that's what your customers are looking for, is this idea to curate something for them
Yeah.
to create social. My first thought is, do I think about Cadillac Fairview as doing that, or as the brand to do that? Like, what's the role or the difference between the mall operator or you as the real estate ownership group in owning that relative to the retailers participating and doing that?
Yeah.
What's the mix and mash on that, on those experiential expectations versus the more purchase-based transactions?
Yeah. Well, and they're not all, I mean, to be clear, not all of our retailers I don't think many of our retailers are purchase-based transactions. I think you know,
Interesting.
everybody's got experience kind of in their minds as the goal.
That's a really
Um,
good comment. Like that we're at a point with retailers of like it's moved
yeah.
beyond. If you're just thinking about a simple transaction, you're behind now, is what you just said essentially. Interesting.
Yeah. Like I think we've gone, yeah, I think we've gone to a really incredible place in terms of how compelling the shopping experience is.
Hmm.
I think COVID, at least in Canada, was a really interesting test case of, being in a fully online digital environment. And I think if anything, it gave us, uh, it gave us maybe some, if we needed more, it gave us some really good confidence about the need for physical spaces. And
Interesting.
from a physical or a brick and mortar shopping experience, yeah, there is an experiential, tactile, social element to it that is, I think, so innately human that it's not going to go anywhere. But if
Well,
I think about, if I go back to your question and think about what I feel like our role is versus our retailers,
yeah,
I
please.
think that the difference is we have a relationship with our consumers. Our retailers have a relationship with Canadians as well. I look at the fun in our jobs as having so many different pieces to kind of pull from to pull
Mhm.
together an experience. We've got food over here, we've got apparel over here, we've got a more experiential play here, we've got fragrances there, or cosmetics, or whatever it is. We've got hundreds of options to pull together a view or an experience so that you can look at Cadillac Fairview as an interesting place.
Right.
When I get down to the retail level, there's too many examples of retailers who are crushing that in their own way, right? Like
Right.
you've got there. It's just so many great examples of physical retailing right now. And we've got a relationship with our retailers as well. Like it is a B2B and a B2C kind of approach. From a B2B perspective, we want to be making sure with our retailers that, we are the one that people think about. That's why you want to be with Cadillac Fairview. We're super well located and super well known. And,
Hmm.
we have, the collection of the greatest retailers in the country. So that's kind of the B2B play, where the B2C play is, again, that needs-based approach.
I'm curious if I want to maybe double click. I hate to use that term, but I'm going to use it
Mhm.
conveniently on the top of my mind today. I'm curious about, with you structuring some curation on these experiences, and then you're talking about the fantastic experiences that retailers are starting to bring into the fold. Is there ever any friction that occurs between those two, like your view versus the retailers, or do you find by and large your an accoutrement and accompaniment to that, or like who leads, who follows? I guess is really what I'm more curious about. Or does it
Yeah,
depend?
look, we have a really, like we've got a really good relationship with our retailers. And so I don't know if there is a cut and dry answer to that, but I mean, we've gone to market with 75, 80% of our retailers in the last year doing things together.
Wow. Okay.
The retailer's obviously going to lead from a product and an experience standpoint. But I think where we lead is the experience as the collection of retailers. And like if part of your question is, do you ever run into friction where, like retailers don't want to play together? No. Like I just think everybody understands the sort of magic of the recipe of all of the retailers in that center, that they all play a role. And when you add them all together, that's where I think from a business strategy standpoint, it's a really compelling palette to pull from to solve needs. It's a really compelling palette because you have so many options. As a marketer, it's different than anything I've ever done before, to be able to look at the 1,000 or so retailers that we've got across our centers and say, okay, how are we going to pull this together into a story that is compelling?
Yeah, and relevant to a certain set of customers that's different to a different set of customers, and meets because they have different needs. To your point, well, I think for me, I was kind of just more curious around, if the umbrella is the spaces that owns and is creating kind of a tone or theme or experiential, curating experiential activations, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
I think you answered the question. When you've got 75 to 80% of your retailers that are participating with you, that allows you a lot of flexibility to give the guidance and to curate appropriately for the needs of that particular
Yeah,
customer segment group, as opposed to a small reliance on one or two, where, if you're off
right.
mark, it's going to be a notable off mark. If you've got this, bevy of retailers in your ecosystem that you can plug and play for different groups, you're going to have
Yeah.
more flexibility and success in creating a positive experience for them. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and there are moments where we get really focused on the space in between the retailers as well,
Yeah,
right? Like
bingo.
really focused on the common area. I mean, it's a bit cliche, but holiday is a perfect example. Christmas is a perfect example of them,
Yeah.
where it's kind of our role to do what we can to respect that tradition and that nostalgia, and so we take that seriously. And and we can do that at spring, and we can do that at fall, and we can do that at back to school, and we can do that at those moments where like the quote unquote need state is so clear.
Right.
We can do that. That's where we can take a broader umbrella view and say, well, this is what the feeling is right now.
Yeah, I think where I was going with that, and I had some other questions, but I'm going to bypass it because this is such a lovely flow and conversation that we have right now. I guess where ultimately I was kind of most curious about to get your opinion on was, at the end of the day, when we think about a loyalty perspective, are your customers loyal to you, or are they loyal to the retailers? Some combination. Like, what's your large premise or your need to believe on that in terms of how you operate and bring people into your spaces and into the retailers that are operating in your spaces?
Yeah, I would say it's probably both. And the metrics that we look at for loyalty are more the business performance metrics. So
Very good.
having 6 of the top 10 malls in the country, like it's just we look at things like that to confirm whether or not we're doing a good job.
That makes sense. Yeah, and you said you're research fact-based, so that makes sense that you'd have those ties to kind of performance based on, relative to other mall providers
Mhm.
and real estate agents or real estate holding companies. So that's good. I mean, in North America, maybe, I mean, you might have a different view on this, but like one of the things that we've talked about is that in North America, and it's not all, but it's many of the retailers are seemingly stripping away a lot of value from their loyalty programs. And it's, not exactly the same experience worldwide, but certainly in North America, we think that there's a downgrade to some degree. And so when we think about some of the mall programs that exist in the Middle East and Asia regions that are loyalty based, we're starting to see that a bit more in North America. Can you offer a perspective on what's different for retailers in North America relative to others in the world from your point of view when it comes to loyalty? What can be learned, what should be learned type of view that you can apply here in North America, or what does North America do better than others even? Could go both ways.
I don't, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't know that I have enough background to give you a good one on that. But when I look, part of your question, I definitely agree with. Like, I do think the more transactional nature of a program,
Yeah.
it is probably the one that's maybe most at risk or least connected to this human energy that we're talking about. So, but yeah, I don't feel like I've got enough kind of global background on loyalty
That's
programs
fair.
to give you a big kind of spread difference between North America and the world. But the sense I get kind of overall is that there's there's a path being beaten to the experience being the thing you're loyal to, and the role of the more programmatic loyalty still important,
Hmm.
but it's kind of a companion to the experience.
Oh, I mean, that's a bit of music to our ears here at Wise Marketer Group. We've been beating the drum for a number of years, and we'll continue to do it because we think it's the right thing. Where we talk about it in very, basic terms of big L loyalty, right? It's involving the programmatic plus the brand view plus the
Yeah,
experience. Those three kind of tenets that come
yeah,
together and to create the whole experience. And all of them have an element of loyalty. Loyalty is not just thought to be that programmatic; it's much larger. Again,
yeah,
to our earlier question about how do you get them in and how do you get them to repeat, you're doing that in a similar way, and it still can be called loyalty. It's just maybe not, a punch card or a discount or a points-based program per se. So interesting. Okay. That's good. I mean, what the other part that I said at the onset that I was curious about because getting your perspective on is because this is a non-traditional loyalty sector, right? That you're trying to activate in, and so perhaps why I love your industry and perspective on this is literally because we've heard whispers that loyalty is a bit dated, perhaps it's stuck, it needs to be unstuck. I've listened to an actual debate on that at a conference not too long ago of whether it's stuck or unstuck. Where do you think we're at in the industry? And maybe you've already touched on this because you're so focused on that human energy element and experiential. You're coming
mhm.
at from that side, and maybe that's the right play given this sector. But what's important for loyalty overall, and in particular for your industry as you think about how you put the loyalty mechanics into play?
Yeah, I think we've talked about part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a part we haven't, but I think the parts that we've talked about are, yeah, we want you to be loyal to the experience. We want you to be loyal because it's something that can repeatedly help you out, repeatedly, kind of solve the problems that you've got. But I do, and I'm not sure about stuck or unstuck, but
Fair.
one of the things that I've had conversations with some industry folks about and just kind of been thinking about myself. Um, there's a real push to authenticity
Oh, I
that
like
I
that.
think that
Good
is
point.
that is coming. That maybe it's generational, so maybe it ties back to the last conversation we had about Z's and alphas. Um, but there's going to be a real push to authenticity, and I think that maybe that's another way to tie it back to loyalty. And I think moving forward a lot more, that's what people are going to be loyal to. And it's hard because I think it requires you to be insightful and to understand things for real. I think it requires you to communicate not in a manipulative way, but in a real straightforward, need solving way. Um, so I think it's kind of block and tackle stuff where you've got to continue to understand the role you play in people's lives, and then having the wherewithal, the courage, the conviction, the priorities to be able to do it, which is hard. It's not easy.
Fair.
I come back to like 2/3 of our trips solve personal, social, or inspirational needs.
Okay.
Like I
Nice.
just keep coming back to that, and I'm like, Still just trying to figure out, in a world that feels like it's maybe never been more technologically connected, there's a heck of a lot of divisive examples out there. And if we get like connection and authenticity as a North Star in this loyalty conversation, then if it is stuck, it gets unstuck by that. And again, I can't render an opinion on stuck or unstuck. But you would ask what's important for loyalty. I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think like
I like that.
authentic connection.
The
That's what people are looking
conversation
for.
is a real tangible conversation that is happening here amongst you and I, but it's elsewhere also. So I think you hit on something there. You also touched a little bit on, as you were talking, I keyed in on a couple of things. One, the kind of the block and tackle things, right? And I'm just curious, real quick, from your perspective, as you think about creating these authentic experiences for your customers so that they come to CF properties and spaces. How important is the real-time data coming into you curating and creating these social activations, or are they kind of preset because they're at that high order, like at a Christmas holiday season is the first? And then you mentioned about also the communications, and so like who's the owner of that comms? Are customers expecting those communications from CF or from the retail, or what's that mix look like? Kind of a two-pronged question again for you. Sorry about that.
No, all good. I think customers are expecting or maybe accepting
Okay. Yeah.
of both. I mean,
Okay.
in terms of retailers and CF, and
Okay.
we, you talk about real time and what sort of data in the first part of the question. You kind of already said it. The more human, insightful stuff, we want to make sure that we've got our ear to the ground. But that I have found, like, it changes, but it changes over time. Like,
Right.
and it changes, and that said, we saw big shifts in COVID. In the beginning of COVID, we would have seen a flight to achievement-based visits.
Okay.
If I'm going out of my house, I'm going to have a purpose. And we went and we did our listening with customers, and wow, that one shot up. And we're like, okay, what can we do to make this experience as efficient as possible, as
Right.
safe and efficient?
Yep.
But and what I say, what I was saying about, they change, but over time, I was surprised and in some ways as like human relieved to see the social, inspirational, personal needs rebound pretty quickly.
Great. Yeah.
Rebound
The
pretty
rebound was
quickly.
quick. Okay. It wasn't like
And almost snap back in some ways when
really.
we had been inside for a long time. It would be like, oh my God, I need human connection. Where am I going to go for that? Like, we had, more browsers and people just walking around for that first little bit because you realize there was something people missed. And so that sort of data we keep our eye on.
Mhm.
We talk to Canadians a lot. And it does shift, but it shifts over time. The real-time data, I would say, that we look at is more the communications.
Okay.
Is more the, like, that is a real-time, more or fairly quick time, if not real-time curation. There's a couple of different programs that we do from a marketing perspective. One of them is called Shop the Look. And that is literally just curating from across the mall. So we work with different retailers to understand what consumers are looking for. If it's seasonally, if it's moment in time, we then go and see which of our retailers solve that need. We pull it together into a Shop the Look. At holiday, we do Shop the Gift.
Oh,
That's one way that we would do it, right? And that's that balance of inspiring and efficient. I'm going to inspire you, but I'm also going to tell you the 11 retailers this came from and where to get it so that you can go, okay, I can be efficient and you've inspired.
That's
But
really helpful. Like those, putting just those two examples kind of clarifies for me in my mind at least, and hopefully for others as well too, like the role that you're playing in terms of guiding and connecting
yeah,
retailers. That's I'm glad you talked those through. Wonderful.
yeah, we've also got digital ambassadors
Okay,
at
yeah, talk to me about
every
that.
one of our properties, and that is fairly real time. So that is social savvy people who is like everybody now, I guess, but um, who who are just at our properties all the time, um, being able to collect pretty organic content often, so
Hmm.
that our content is out there a lot. And from an authentic standpoint, um, like I'm not saying we do stiff corporate content, but from an authentic standpoint, it plays, right? It's authentic.
It's
It's
user
somebody
generated,
who's
right? Like it's
capturing
yeah,
content there.
100%.
And so that plays well. And like for the marketers who are listening, it's got another side benefit of, I mean, production budgets can be a bit cheaper when you're doing that. And so, there's some benefits to being authentic, and we're not doing hundreds of thousands of dollar TV commercials, but at the same point, yeah, it makes for, it just recognizes how fast we're all moving.
You talked with us last time on the webinar with Conic and Mall of America about these ambassadors, and one of the curiosities that came up, or a question, from that session was, are you paying these people? But if I recall, you're not. Like these are just, as you said, individuals who like the CF spaces. They come, they're having experiences within them with their friends on their own, whatever that might be, and at the same time doing you, some favor in terms of capturing the moments, if you will. Is that correct?
Yeah, in places we are, more often than not we are. I mean, those are content creators, and we want to, yeah, make sure that we're recognizing that. But the majority of the content that's out there shot on the CF property, you're absolutely right. It's not by people that
Right.
we have a direct relationship with. But I think I would say that goes for everybody as well. It's just sort of, we're always on
In this
display.
world, right? Like you
Yeah,
used to be
yeah, yeah,
able to
yeah.
control that, but in this day and age, that's now long gone when everyone has a camera and a
But
microphone on the device that they carry with them more than their wallet even now, right?
yeah, but those ambassadors, I mean, we do want to respect that they've
Yeah.
got some expertise, they've got a specialty, they've got a desire, and that's, we want to make sure we're not taking advantage of that either.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they get some sort of badge that they can claim if they so choose, some status symbol, or is it
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they can.
cool.
Yeah, they many of them promote themselves as the ambassador for that mall. Yeah,
Oh wow, that's kind of that's like what's the old program Foursquare or it used to
yeah, a
be
little bit.
on
It's like the
steroids.
it's like everything old is new again. It's like
Yeah,
somebody's pics at the video store.
100%.
If I didn't just age myself, if I haven't aged myself already, I just did it there.
I mean, you did a pretty good job because you said that you've got some alphas at home, but
Yeah,
on that. But
yeah,
no, I think it's one of those things where, as marketers, we have to extend ourselves beyond all those ages, which is why this conversation and the last one we had as well too. We put ourselves in the shoes of different customer groups and the thoughts and needs, as you've said. I love that you're coming from a needs-based application to local.
yeah.
That's right on par with some historical stuff that I used to do when I was at Metropolitan University teaching marketing. So that's good to see that I'm not alone. But we're getting close to time. Craig, this has been a really fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it. To tie off, though,
Hmm.
we can do a tried and true moment. Bill and I both like to do this in our Wiser Loyalty series, whether it's for Let's Talk Loyalty or even for our own stuff that we do at Wise Marketer. But can you share one example from, and it can be either like personal or professional life, that doesn't have to be one or the other, but an epiphany moment is essentially what I'm looking for. So a time where you just thought, gosh, this is why customer loyalty works.
Yeah, I hate that we just talked about age, and this is going to tie it too close, Aaron.
Oh my
No,
gosh, I hit a nerve.
the the example that comes to mind is I am a Pearl Jam fan. I fell in love with Pearl Jam as a teenager. I still go to see them, not as often, but pretty regularly. And one thing I love about their shows is they get that we are all in this together.
Right.
And I know that lots of bands and entertainment get that. So I don't want to say that they own this exclusively, but they know that the shows don't work without the audience. They're talented and confident and humble enough to know that. And I just kind of, that's an epiphany moment for me, because I think that so much of entertainment and experience in general has to balance some personal interest, some need
There it is.
with
Yeah.
human connection,
Like that.
right? And the shared moments, the people on stage, or the brand that invited me to the thing, they were the reason we got together, but they at best set the table for an experience.
They facilitate it.
We
Yeah.
were all, facilitates a perfect word. We're all kind of in this together. And for me, it's a personal example of something I find insightful, that we seem to all, at least I do, I seem to always be searching for the moments of connection, and it's through like shared interest.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, that human element, that human energy that you talked about earlier, it can be done individually, certainly, that there are pursuits and moments that are meant to be solo, but by and large, I would say if it's a true moment, it's often in conjunction with, I'll use another entity because it could go to your dogs or your cats or like other things, but other humans as well too. So I like to think of it that way. But Craig, it's been great speaking with you. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy day at Cadillac Fairview to speak with us again. We really appreciate it. There'll be individuals who want to talk with you who can connect with you after this for sure. But otherwise, just want to thank everyone who took the time to listen to this podcast today as well too. We know your time is busy, and with that, look forward to the next sessions when you sign back in. So we'll say goodbye and thank you very much, Craig. And for everyone else, as always, stay loyal.
Thanks.